It's Jack Kimberly. I don't want anything to do with that man. He's the reason why I got into so much trouble back here several years ago. Look, today I was just minding my own business, heading through the cemetery on my way to the square. I don't want anything to do with him. I mean, I got into trouble, and for what? Just protecting myself against that man and his brothers.
Well, if it isn't John Lawrence, I never thought I'd have to see that man ever again. I don't even know what he's doing here in the first place. He's not of this place. He must just be cutting through on his way on over to the square.
I got sentenced to 50 years in the state penitentiary for killing that guy. And I'd have served every bit of it if it wasn't for these great people. I ended up serving 16 months in the Dallas County lockup and then another 6 years in the penitentiary before the governor at the time, Ross Sterling, let me go after 6 years. And I came back here. I tell you what, it pays to be on your best behavior.
I had a good wife, Vera, and kids, and I finally thought things were turning around for my brothers and me. I took a turn as a baseball pitcher, started off on the Paris team in the Eastern Division. I played for the Shreveport team for a while. By the time I retired, I was playing on the Memphis team in the Southern Division. And I come on back here to Mesquite to be with my wife and my family. And you know that when I got back here, my wife, Vera, had filed for divorce. She filed for divorce. She'd gotten way too close to that Lawrence fella. I blame it all on him.
Look, if I hadn't shot him, he'd have killed me. I mean, this wasn't the first time he threatened me. Well, he even blamed me for the breakup of his marriage. Now, me and Mrs. Kimball, he was just talking about her problems. That's all there was to it. You couldn't tell that guy anything. I mean, one time, he even threatened to sue me for $50,000.
I knew I should have just turned and walked away when my brother Charlie started in on Lawrence, but he was threatening to sue my papa over a $55 loan that he got from the First State Bank, where he was president. My brother Charlie also worked for a bank, the First State Bank, and he was a darn good employee too, but I let my temper get the better of me. I headed on over to them when I heard them start yelling at each other, and next thing my brother Oscar came along to stop us all from fighting.
I should have just let it go. But Charlie was all up in my face, pushing me, saying, "Come on, bring it on." Well, I had my gun, but it was tucked in my shirt and I couldn't get to it. About that time, Jack came around and hit me upside the head, knocked me down. Well, my pistol went flying. We were in front of J.R. Scott's store, and Scott went and picked my pistol up. I said, "J.R., give me my gun." Well, he could tell I was really hurt. I think he hit me with brass knuckles or something. Anyway, and I was angry, so I pulled myself up and I ran through the store on my way back to the bank because I was finishing this for once and for all.
We all thought old John Lawrence was a big old coward when he got up and ran into Mr. Scott's store. We were all still talking, and I was trying to pull myself together, and Charlie was trying to calm Oscar down. Well, next thing we know, we see old Lawrence come out of that bank with a rifle. A rifle! The town square was full of people milling about. Witnesses were everywhere, and he comes out of the bank with a rifle. Well, he leveled that rifle down at me, my brother Charlie. We thought maybe because he worked at a rival bank or something. Then he turns and points it at me. Fires off a shot. Missed us all, thank God. I had jumped down behind a car to take cover. We thought maybe it was just a warning shot or something. I stand back up to see what's going on, and he's still there all right. So I turn to get on out of there. Next thing you know, I feel a fire in my gut. He shot me. John Lawrence shot me in cold blood.
Look, I came out of the bank with my rifle just to scare those boys on home. Well, my anger got a little bit of hold of me, and so I fired off a shot. I didn't hit anybody. Well, about that time, I see Jack jumping behind the car. Well, here I am standing wide out in the open. I thought he's going to kill me. So I fired another shot, and it just happened to hit him, and he fell to the ground, and his brothers, Oscar and Charlie, ran over to him, and I headed on home, but I knew I'd stepped in it this time.
I knew I wasn't going to make it. Some folks helped my brothers pick me up and carry me on into Mr. Herndon's store, and they loaded me into Mr. Herndon's private ambulance, and they took me on down to St. Paul's Sanitarium, where the doctors rushed me right into surgery. I was awake and talking the entire time, but I began to feel sleepy and tired, like my whole being was being drained on out of me. John Lawrence shot me just after 5 o'clock in the evening on October 6th, and I took my last breath the next morning about 7 o'clock. Death certificate said I died of a gunshot wound and a hemorrhage, and I was laid to rest in this beautiful place, right over yonder. And I never thought I'd have to see the likes of that man ever again.
My brother Hugh and my cousin G.T. Motley came and took me down to the jail. Now, I thought I was turning myself in on an assault charge, but old Kimberly went up and died on us, and it turned into a murder charge. Now, the murder trial turned into be a big event. You see, I had been elected mayor in 1917 and 1925, so the people of Mesquite took a real interest in my murder trial. In fact, they had to voir dire over 400 men before they could finally pick a jury. They called over 200 witnesses. Townspeople came out in droves. In fact, there were so many in the courtroom that sometimes the lawyers couldn't even get down the aisle. Well, it took that jury just 4 hours and 25 minutes to convict me of murder and sentence me to 50 years in the penitentiary. Guess I'm kind of lucky. 2 of them wanted to give me the death penalty. Anyway, I hadn't been in the penitentiary very long, where some of the townsfolk and the county officials and even some state officials went to work on my behalf and got me out of there in 6 years. And I came back to Mesquite, and the wonderful people here forgave me, and in fact, they elected me mayor again in 1949 and 1953.
It was hard being a farmer in the early days in Mesquite. Sometimes you had to take out a loan just to make ends meet. And it was difficult to try and pay that money back. But my papa would have made good on that money.